for
But you're on
more than
screen
10
now.
years.
You're
They
on
couldn't
camera.
get it open.
All right,
it was
cool. Hey, buddy.
a renovation. They couldn't get it done. Mayor Koch was at his wits' ends. They just
Have you
couldn't
ever
get
seen
it
one of these
finished. They
before,
couldn't get
Hasan?
it built.
Have I ever seen one of these? What?
One of these rallies before?
Yes.
Like-
Not in person, but I used to watch all of the Trump rallies back in the day.
I've never done one of these like all the way through.
I used to watch all of the rallies all the way through, like so
oh
many
my
of them.
God.
Oh yeah. I'm just gonna turn off my camera. I don't know why it's not working. Okay.
Cool. Yeah, I
in
can't
wrong
really see-
directions
maybe there we
and
go.
at different heights. And they took their advice from a refrigerator company from Miami, where it's 95 degrees out.
Like, where does he
It
get
was a
this stuff
total
from?
mess. They just didn't know what they were doing. And I saw this,
brilliant
and I
orator.
wanted my children to be able to ice skate
In
before
his
they
own
didn't
way.
care about ice skating.
So if
I
you
looked down on the rink and I said,
watched
what
through
is
all
going
of
on?
these, what are some
Years
of the
and
things
years.
that
So
like
I
you
volunteered,
notice
and
about
I took over the
Trump's
project.
tendencies in these
and,
rallies that don't
did a
get
good
talked
job.
about very often?
It's
Or at
always
least
it's
dream.
always the same.
And when
He
I
always
took
brings
it
up the
over, I
same
said
stuff.
that
Like he has
if it cost
he
more
does
than
like a
$2
comedian. He has like a
million, I
tight,
would pay for
I guess a
it,
tight
the
hour
entire amount.
that he rolls out every single time. We literally have like we will do sometimes we'll have like bingo. Like we'll play bingo and gamble on with fake points on whether or not he's going to say certain things. But it's very predictable. It's always the same stuff. It's always like anti-immigrant screed. I would say that in recent years his anti-immigrant stuff has gotten even more wild. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure he'll hit that and talk about like undocumented immigrants or whatever here, and bring up like 82,000 things of that nature. But usually he's just very sassy and you know, I guess very telegenic and very charismatic to that audience specifically. Whenever he talks about his own personal gripes like hairspray or things of that nature.
Problems whatsoever. Anyway, I started the project, laid the rubber hose, mixed the water and the salt beautifully together. I was down there when they were doing it. I said, you got to do it right. And covered the entire rink with concrete in 4, literally, you had to see this scene, concrete trucks operated by the Teamsters. Do we have any Teamsters here? Oh.
Oh damn! He's shouting out the
Oh,
team.
you got to make sure
Wow.
with O'Brien. He's a good man. He endorses
Wow.
Trump. I think he's going to, actually.
Wow.
But the Teamsters that
Sean
stretched
O'Brien
all
is
the
going to
way.
endorse Trump.
You
He
had
said
trucks
Sean O-
stretching all the
he-
way
Sean
from the
O'Brien's
Wallman
gonna-
Rink,
no.
which was, let's say, at 60th
Sean
Street,
O'Brien
all
has
the way
been
back to Harlem.
making some,
One contiguous port. It was a day and a half.
There's been some weird
of
stuff
pouring
with
concrete.
Holly and
One
some of these other
contiguous
races too
giant
that
surface.
I
As you
find
know, the rink
concerning.
Yeah,
was completed
he
in
met with
just
Trump.
3 months.
I remember.
for
Yeah.
And it was very
projected. The biggest expense was
I guess it was
actually
relatively
the demolition.
controversial, and I thought he was
That
just
is
like,
the
you know,
demolishing of everything that was
he was just
built
trying to
so
do
incorrectly,
what
so
he
badly
considers
over
to be,
a
like,
10-year period.
politically
The biggest cost was
appropriate,
demolition.
hedging his bets,
taking
but
it
who
all down
knows?
and starting all over.
But they went
We
in,
opened
they
with a
actually
ceremony
endorsed
with
Josh
all
Hawley.
Olympic
And I
gold
think
medal
that Senate
winners,
race
including the great
is tighter
Peggy Fleming,
than should
Dorothy
be
Hamill,
taken for
Scott
granted.
Hamilton,
So it
and all
was
of the
like
others. Every one of them was
there's
there. It
plenty
was
in
a beautiful
politics
night,
and actually
beautiful
throwing your
weather.
weight in.
I'll never forget the
and I
evening.
think
It was
that's
one
the
of
part
most
that's starting to get
beautiful. My
concerning.
parents were there. Now they're looking down on us. They say, wow, that's my son. Can you imagine? That's my son.
Wow. He's so funny.
Can you imagine? He's being
Terrifying,
tried
but funny
in
at
a
the
court
same
with a
time.
crooked judge.
Yeah,
Can
I
you
mean that's
believe
why
this?
he's effective.
Can you believe it? And highly conflicted judge at that. But everybody was there, and it was really something to behold. It was an incredible experience, and one of the great experiences of my life in New York. We opened it. It's been successful, and successful ever since. What a great, great experience. It was beautiful. And, you know, a lot of it's common sense. You'd like to say the Republican Party is the party of common sense. You don't go to Miami when you want to make ice. You go to Canada when you want to make ice, right? Or you could go right down the road in the Bronx to Ferry Point, right?
Oh,
Everybody know about Ferry Point? It was another disaster.
he's
a development where the
he
city
knows
has
the
spent
city.
over 29 years.
I doubt
almost
he's ever been to
$300
the
million
Bronx
trying to
until this
develop it
moment.
into a
Like,
luxury
I
golf
highly
resort.
doubt that he's ever
Anything, they'll
frequented
take
the
anything.
Bronx.
They were
Totally.
spending money. You know, trucks were going here, dumping, getting filled up, moving it here, dumping, getting filled up with the same stuff. This went on for years, back and forth, the same stuff. They were feather bedding. They were doing lots of bad things. But really, they didn't know how to get it done. They had no idea how much money they were spending. And when asked how much they spent, they said, we just don't know. That's been going on for years, decades. They were unable to do it. And at the time, the mayor, Michael Bloomberg, said, no, it's all right. It's okay. Now, Michael Bloomberg was the mayor, and he called me. He said, I have to get this done before I finish my term. It was very important to him. He was embarrassed by it.
They're booing Michael Bloomberg. He was a Republican mayor.
Yeah,
he went
exactly.
through a lot of different mayors. Almost 30 years, remember that. And he said, in all fairness, he said, I want to get this done, and you're the one that can do it. You're the only one that can do it.
So Ferry Point
and
is
I said,
a
and I
golf
will
course
do it. I will get it done.
Denamed. It used to be called Trump Links. It's what I questioned Michael Cohen about because it was part of the financial fraud case, kicked off the financial fraud case that he just got popped on a couple months ago, where Tish James had him pay just a huge sum of money, and it just got taken over by Bally Corporation. Now they renamed it not long ago.
For years and years against the city, it's time we get together.
I didn't know he had a golf course
do it
there.
Right. And let's get the hell out of here.
Okay, so he has been to the Bronx then, for sure.
Probably for a ribbon cutting.
Toughest contractors in New York.
For his
they
golf
had
course.
spirit like you've never seen before. And it was magnificently designed by the great Jack Nicklaus, who told me, I don't want to make any more money. They paid me enough. Everybody get paid a fortune. Jack said, I don't want money. I just want to see it get built for the people of New York. And that's what we did. But everybody, just like Jack, they said very similar things. These guys were rough and tough, and they made a lot of money, but you'd think they'd want to make more, but they didn't. They just wanted to get it built. And in just a little more than a year, so this was going on for 30 years, including, think of it, just a magnificent thing to watch. You had to watch these people working, just the opposite of what took place for the first 29 years. But we had a magnificent world-class golf course that many of you have played now.
Yes,
and it's rated as one of the best public courses in the country.
It's so crazy to me that he's talking about this because this golf course that he is talking about is literally the source of a financial fraud investigation. That was one of the largest settlements that he just had to pay. Like, this whole thing about how he's totally broke and bankrupt is because of this golf course in the Bronx, because he tried to take out insurance on it, and he claimed the value of his properties was way higher in order to get like kind of the insurance payout on it. But then he claimed on his taxes that the value was much lower, and we kind of caught this. And a couple years ago, when Michael Cohen came before Congress, this was kind of the start of one of the question lines that I had about him. So Cohen says, yeah, he did do this. And he goes, here's the accountant you can ask. Here's this guy you can ask. Here's that guy you can ask. And the New York Attorney General, Tish James, she saw that, and they started an investigation. And that was the result of this massive settlement that just came out like in February. And so he's now like, Trump is so super broke right now, precisely because of this golf course, or rather in no small part because of this golf course that in the Bronx that he's talking about right now. And he's here, but he's like busing in all these people from outside the borough. It's like absolutely insane.
Yeah. It should be noted that Donald Trump won 15.9% of the vote in the Bronx in 2020. Which MSNBC and other outlets referred to as a 7-point increase from 2016.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter. It's still 15%. So it's not like there's a lot of real momentum for Trump in the Bronx at all.
How dare you? This man came in. He put up his own money. He did an incredible job. You were building it for 29 years. How dare you ask for this to be terminated? How unfair is that? Deborah James, a great Supreme Court justice. That's all I can tell you. And we won the case. But it's not easy doing business in New York, I'll tell you. Not easy. So I just appreciated that I had to tell that story. And as you know, then I renovated Grand Central Terminal. I built the Grand Hyatt Hotel on 42nd Street and Park Avenue. And as part of that, I renovated the beautiful Grand Central Terminal, did a really good job of that. And then I was very much responsible for the construction.
It's ironic when he talks about all these constructions and it's like all of it is like riddled with scandal where he refused to pay contractors on a regular basis.
Remember?
And it's like what everybody knows this. Like he knew it far before he ran for president. Like, so my dad was an architect. He had this small business in the Bronx, and so he was always we're always at these job sites, and we're with contractors, and we're with the unions and the workers and stuff like that, trying to figure out like what housing that can be built in the area and whatnot. And it was known to everybody in the 90s that anyone who worked in real estate or construction or anything like this always knew that like you shouldn't, especially if you were a smaller guy or smaller business, you should not do business with this dude because he just fleeced everybody. He just like was always not paying bills, screwing people over. And like every single person knew this and like how corrupt he was as well. And I mean, he went broke in Atlantic City. This guy has gone broke so many times. And it's just been like this shell game of trying to figure out who can lend him more and more money while he tries to like con someone else out of it. And he's gone what? Like, how old is this guy now? Like in his, is he 80 something? He's in his 80s now. Like just having lived his whole life without a real job. Yeah.
7 bankruptcies. Bankrupted a casino, which is like, you know, that's actually kind of
you have to see the lines
impressive.
Outside the
it is impressive.
But when we saw it and we saw the love, because I called up this morning, do the people like me or do they hate me? They said, they don't like you, sir. They love you. I said, oh, thank you. So I appreciate it. And I love you too. But above all else, boy, look at all the cameras back there. That's amazing. That's the fake news.
boo. They're booing.
Not the booing camera.
You know, they'll say tonight, Donald Trump spoke to a very small crowd of people in the Bronx. It was a very hostile crowd, very hostile. They hated him very much. No, sometimes they're okay. You know, I agreed to do a debate with crooked Joe Biden on CNN with fake Tapper. And I think they'll be fair. Does anybody think they'll be fair? I might be. No. That's all right. When they said, here's your story, you can have a debate on CNN with fake Tapper as the primary host. And I said, I'll do it. Because you know what they thought is you'd say CNN and they'd say various people on the show, various anchors, and, you know, headed up by fake Tapper. And they thought I was going to reject it. I don't want to do it. Then Biden would say, I offered to debate, but he wouldn't do it. So they said, we want to have a debate. I'll take it. Well, we haven't even told you what the debate is all about. Then they said, today, they said, we'd like to set up tables so you sit down. I said, I don't want to sit down for a debate. Let's go. At some point, so we're not sitting down. We're going to be standing up for the debate. And here's what you know.
It should be reminded to everyone that he almost killed Joe Biden last time when he had COVID and was like,
yeah, that's right.
He
like, is that what he did? He had COVID.
He had COVID.
And like didn't tell anybody?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Shake my hand, Biden. Come on, be a man. I'm coughing into it.
All of them. So they understood. They understood before anyone how big this would be. And you got to see what's back there coming in. Thank you. Thank you.
I remember when all these Republicans were getting COVID and like not telling anybody about it and like not telling people how serious it was. Like when you Walter Reed, he was down bad with it.
Old-fashioned American common sense is exactly what I intend to bring back to the White House, just like we had for 4 years. You know, we had 4 of the greatest years in the history of our country. We rebuilt the military, we cut taxes, the biggest tax cut in history, the biggest regulation cut in history. We defeated ISIS. We defeated ISIS, and we did it in about 1/100th the time. They said it would take 4 to 5 years. It took me like 2 months, right? Because we have an incredible military, and we're not allowed to show. They had Afghanistan, the worst pullout, the most embarrassing day in the history of our country.
Yeah,
it's probably the reason, a piece of it, why Russia went into Ukraine. They said, these people are incompetent, we'll go in. So Russia going into Ukraine would have never happened. None of this stuff that you see would have happened.
God.
Israel would have never happened, the attack on October 7th. And you wouldn't have had inflation.
Israel,
as soon
direct
as I get
consequence
back
of
into
the Abraham
Oval
Accords and many of Jared Kushner's and Donald Trump administration's actions, like moving the embassy to Jerusalem.
10,000.
Yeah, he is just as responsible for October 7 as anyone else. The fact that he is saying like Israel would have never happened, October 7 would have never happened, is ridiculous when it directly happened as a direct consequence of him moving the embassy to Jerusalem, recognizing the annexed territory of Golan Heights as Israeli territory, going against international law, and also conducting the Abraham Accords, completely sidestepping the Palestinians from the conversation. That is a major reason.
Very happy.
Absolutely.
And Biden can't do it. He doesn't know he's alive. You know, see all the stairs here? Stair, 2 of them behind me, 1 in the middle. When he's finished with his 2.5 minute, you know, do you ever watch his speech? They last for about 1.5 minutes. When he's finished with his speech, he can never find the stairs. He can never find the stairs. And when he does, it's not a
The only reason why he talks about this is because he's also fallen down the stairs before, so he loves being like, Biden falls down the stairs all the time.
When you see President Xi of China, when you see Kim Jong-un of North Korea, when you see Putin, and you see all of these people, they're at the top of their game, whether you like it or not, and they can't believe that this has happened to the United States. We have lost respect all over the world. We were the most respected country in the world 4 years ago. We were respected more than our country was ever respected 4 years ago, and now we're being laughed at. We're like a joke.
Do you feel like
and that's
the
not
way
gonna happen.
this
That's
has
not gonna happen.
changed?
We're going to do
Like when you're watching him conduct this now, and the way he used to do his rallies, have they changed much at all, or have they remained pretty consistent?
It's pretty consistent. I mean, the they're laughing at us narrative is pretty funny because for obvious reasons, like one, America and its like global influence certainly got worse under the Trump administration. But beyond that, he also used to say exactly that about Obama. Like he would say that was like a major talking point for him in his earlier rallies all the way since 2016. He has definitely, I think he's just gotten boring, and he also no longer has the outsider effect that made him, especially against someone like Hillary Clinton, made him seem like an interesting person that people could bet
refreshing.
on. But when he was president for 4 years, people still remember it, all the chaos and all the instability. It becomes a lot harder to maintain that outsider's posture.
And importantly, for the people that are before me today, we are going to make life in New York affordable again. It's gotten totally out of control. The minute crooked Joe Biden shuffles out the door, I will rapidly rebuild the greatest economy, the history of the world. Look, we had the greatest economy in history. Everybody here, where you have a small business or if you had a job, you were getting more than you ever made. And we had no inflation. We had no 1.4%. Considered better than none, because frankly, none in its own way is a bad thing also. We had a perfect number, 1.4%. It doesn't matter whether you're black or brown or white or whatever the hell color you are, it doesn't matter. We are all Americans, and we're going to pull together as Americans.
This is the only avenue of attack against the Biden administration that is like actually pretty salient, I would say.
Yeah.
Because that is like universally the number one thing both Democrats and Republicans criticize this administration on, despite the fact that inflation obviously is, I mean, there's many different ways of dealing with it, but we never engage in any sort of like, we never engage in legislative action to combat inflation. No deflationary mechanisms exist in the minds of American politicians for the most part, and only monetary policy. So
we had great people.
Exactly. I mean, and one of the best ways actually pursues with antitrust. Like, we need to break them up. Like, we need to break up a lot of these massive corporations and companies and be aggressive and going after them. And, you know, the one bright spot in this is Lena Khan at the FTC.
Oh, yeah.
She's like, DOJ today announcing that they're going after Ticketmaster. She's but Lena Khan at the FTC has been
going after Amazon.
Going after all of them, going after Amazon. They even went after certain consumer protections, like Rite Aid started rolling out the facial recognition AI in their cameras, and this starts just sending tons of people to jail, and it's like notoriously unreliable, and also there's a lot of algorithmic racial bias in these. But yeah, so they started going after them, and Rite Aid got a judgment against them. The problem is that we need more Democrats when we actually have the gavels in these places to do antitrust policy. And there's just like so much corrupt influences from these large lobbies, especially in tech. I actually think there's like a huge amount of influence in tech, and a lot of Democrats that take corporate money. I think that's one of the reasons why antitrust doesn't get as much legislative momentum. But we do have people, again, like Lena Khan, that are doing an awesome job.
Losing everything they can lose. They're the ones that are affected most by what's happening. Not only the fact that you've lost the use of your schools, your parks, and your hospitals. Joe Biden's inflation.
I love New Yorkers in the Bronx chanting "Build the Wall."
I was just gonna say, here chanting "Build the Wall" in the middle of the Bronx. It's insane.
People saying, like, people having anti-immigrant sentiment in New York, one of the most diverse places on the planet, is ridiculous.
Wall that we built 571 miles of wall. We had the safest border in history. We were going to put up within a period of 3 weeks.
They're talking about building a wall to Connecticut. That's what they want.
Designed by the Border Patrol, who are incredible people, ICE, who are incredible people, all together. I wanted to put up concrete plank for the contractors here. They didn't want it. They had to have hardened steel. They wanted 6,000, 7,000 pound concrete. They wanted rebar in the middle. They wanted different materials, harder to cut. So we had very hard steel, very good stuff. Everything was good. We had the panel on top. It was called an anti-climb panel. We had the best wall, and it was going to be, we're going to add 200 miles of wall. It would have taken about 3 weeks. And then we had the rigged election. And you know what happened after the rigged election? They took the wall, and instead of putting it up, they sold it for 5 cents on the dollar. And I said, these people really do want to have an open border. And that's
this is another aspect. I mean, I am a lot more critical of the Biden administration, obviously, very publicly. But this is another aspect of, like, the Trump conversation that is very frustrating, because a lot of people are like, oh, yeah, well, you know, build the wall. Meanwhile, Biden has, you know, pushed through a funding mechanism that will literally complete the border wall, while also simultaneously administration doing eminent domain too, in order to continue building the wall, which I think is both bad policy and bad politics in general. But these people don't care because, you know, they are operating on pure resentment. And that is partially the reason why we shouldn't ever capitulate to the right-wing framing on immigration, in my opinion.
Absolutely. I mean, this is one of the issues that I think frustrates me the most, because this is where we see some of the most capitulation to the right. And the problem is that this resentment will never be fed. And so very often I'll see, like, Democrats trying to, like, play this political game, like this whole thing with HR2 and this border bill that with Republicans, and try and do this whole thing about, oh, like, we came up with a tough border bill and Republicans rejected it as though it was some kind of solution. But the problem is that, like, we've been through so many cycles of this where Trump or Republicans in general or Fox News, they'll do this whole like racial panic thing and incite this whole sense of an emergency or chaos on the border. And then it resonates in Washington, D.C., and all these Democrats start freaking out, and they cobble together some bill that plows a bunch more money to CBP, plows a bunch more money into border facilities. And sometimes they will put money towards like some good things too. Like they will all in the same bill. They will have money for CBP and ICE, but then they'll also put in a lot of money to like HHS and like the kids centers and like the humanitarian centers and stuff like that. But the problem is that none of this resource stuff solves the problem. Right now, CBP is the largest law enforcement force in the United States. And the thing is like they'll pour and pour and pour all these resources, all these new technologies, everything. But the problem is not about money. The problem is that we don't have a path to citizenship in the United States. And not only that,
it's a matter of processing. It's a processing issue, and they never talk about it. Or Democrats used to talk about it from the framework of like immigration is a problem. It's not even a problem at all, but it's like it's at its most it is a problem with the legal status that these people do not have, and the solution to it is to immediately open up pathways to citizenship. And then the undocumented migrants can also work alongside the documented workforce and unionize and be able to demand a larger piece of the pie. And yet it is maintained as a depressive force on the wages, specifically due to the legal status. And it's shocking to me that the Democratic Party across the board is now kind of capitulating to the right-wing framing on the issue, considering it to be a issue of national security, which is like you've given the game up at that point. You've ceded territory for no reason to the right wing on immigration, and now all of a sudden all you've done is basically legitimize their position that it is actually a matter of national security when it's not. When there are studies done on this issue, not many, but the ones that do, the studies that have been conducted on the matter show that undocumented immigrants are responsible for less crime per capita than documented U.S.-born individuals. So the idea that like they are causing extra crime is silly. So
no, it totally is. And what's even crazier about it is that we are in such a desperate need for people to fill huge swaths of labor in the United States. I mean, so many of these Republican states are rolling back child labor laws right now. Like 14-year-olds are getting hurt in meat processing facilities because they're rolling back child labor laws because they're so desperate for workers, and they're so xenophobic that they don't want immigrants to contribute to these local economies. But like, I mean, even when I was on the road with Bernie in 2020, we'd go to places, Nebraska, Iowa, etc. And a lot of these communities that are feeding the entire country, like core, you want to talk about a national security issue. One big national security issue is that like our increased inability to feed ourselves if our labor force and our workforce starts to fall apart, not be able to get fulfilled. Plus, you do that, plus the issues with climate change, with people not even being able to work the same hours because it's getting so hot during harvest season. Like these are the actual structural issues that we need to address. And like, as long as we do not actually expand people's ability to get in the, like people talk about getting in line, like there's no line, but if we made a line, if we actually created an ability for people to actually become a citizen in some sort of, and apply for citizenship in a normal way, that you don't have to be in a, get a 30-year wait in order to come to this country, then we'd be able to actually have the labor infrastructure necessary to serve huge parts of the country. But it's like, it is wild. Like, and the depressive forces on wages is very real too. Like, I've spoken with a lot of our building trades and our union workers in construction. And you have like all of these real estate developers that are acting in very predatory ways, trying to find undocumented laborers in order to put up their buildings. These laborers, it's very dangerous for them because they're not covered by OSHA. There was like this huge spate a couple years ago where so many undocumented people were dying on these job sites, and it is a lot, and that's what's turned a lot of unions around on immigration, like the Teamsters notoriously, ironically, but they notoriously like had a very different stance on immigration. But because they realized that undocumented people like want to join a union, and if they were able to join a union, we wouldn't have this effect where it would sink everyone's wages down, but it would actually raise them up. It forced them to change their stance on immigration.
Noam Chomsky's daughter, Aviva Chomsky, wrote a phenomenal book on this called Undocumented, How Immigration Became Illegal, for those of you who are interested, that specifically details like how the Bracero program and onward, how like the American government had a plan to basically create a never-ending pool of labor that they could hyper exploit in comparison to like the documented American labor force, and use it as a use this two-tier labor structure to further depress wages in the United States of America. So it's always been a deliberate, the status of not being documented is a deliberate one caused by those who want to increase profit margins for capital owners. And not only that, but also, if there was any sort of real restriction, if we did have this like truly white nativist, white supremacist attitude towards like black and brown people coming into the country, then you would see significant punishments towards those like Purdue and I'm talking about the chicken processors, like the agricultural industry in its entirety that relies on undocumented labor and very specifically designs their profit margins around undocumented labor, that even will in certain instances call ICE on their own plants if like the workers there decide to demand back pay or complain too much. And the reality is, like, if we did really want to punish, if we really wanted to stop undocumented immigration in this country, then we would punish the corporations, but we don't. And I'm not saying that that's a good thing anyway. I don't think that this country has no more room for additional people, and there's no lump of labor unless you create a two-tier process between undocumented workers and documented laborers. Anyway, let's get back to Trump, though.
We bombs all over the place. Spent $9 trillion in the Middle East. We bomb the hell out of the place, then we leave. You know, in the old days, to the victor belong the spoils. We don't do that. We bomb the hell out of everyone, then we come back home. It's so sick. It's so sick and so stupid. These people that led us are so stupid. You want to use that as a last resort. You can solve these problems with a meeting or with a telephone call. You don't have to drop billions of dollars worth of bombs on people's heads. You don't have to.
The peaceful dove, Donald Trump.
It's called peace through strength. It really is.
Believes in leveling these places just as much as anybody else. And like his stance on Palestinians as well is like horrific.
Iraq, years ago, I was a civilian, but I got a lot of publicity for whatever the hell reason. And I said, don't go into Iraq.
And meanwhile, his son-in-law's
don't go into Iraq.
Figure out what war properties they can.
Well, they went in.
Yeah, you're cutting in and out right now, by the way. Just letting you know. I don't know why. But you're fine now, I think.
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
You said his son-in-law is selling properties.
Or you have Jared Kushner about waterfront properties in Gaza. It's disgusting.
Oh yeah.
Everything. They were equal military partners, and for 1,000 years under different names, they would fight. A religious thing. They'd fight. They'd go 5 feet left, 5 feet right, 5 feet left, 5 feet right. Somebody would say they have gas. Somebody would say they have nuclear. Then they'd rest for a few years, and they'd fight again. But we blew the hell out of one side, Iraq. So now Iraq is a subsidiary, essentially, of Iran. Congratulations for the geniuses that got us into that mess.
Wait, what?
Because
That's
Iran
like
essentially
that again.
controls-
Like no kind of reconciliation could ever happen with Iran because he threw away the Iran denuclearization agreement. I'm very critical of Barack
Exactly.
Obama's administration, but that was like a signature foreign policy accomplishment for not just the Obama administration, but it was an agreement that numerous European parties also were involved in. Iran literally continued along with the denuclearization agreement even after Donald Trump said that he would throw it aside, and then he did, and then then Iran still continued to follow the protocols, according to European investigators that went to Iran to look at the nuclear facilities, and he still added additional crippling sanctions on top of that. He is most responsible for Iran being more hostile and being more influential in the territory personally.
For Iraq, we just paid $10 billion. And think of it, Iraq has billions of dollars that we're paying for their electricity. So we were in a position, there was no terror, there was no threat, there was no nothing. And now Iran has become a big threat again.
Yeah.
And
Bring
I tell
them
you, I see a
home.
lot of flags.
Those
Bring
words
them
ring
home.
hollow
A lot of
when
flags
the
from
number
the
one
right out
killer of all
Israel,
the
right? That's
hostages has
right
been
out
Benjamin
Israel.
Netanyahu. So
But remember, I said it a month ago, and it's a terrible thing to say, but I believe it. Many of the hostages that you're waiting for, and everybody's waiting for, those hostages, many of them are dead. Many of them are dead. And it's a horrible thing. It's a horrible thing, but many of those hostages are dead. And that's why when you see these negotiations where Hamas is like not getting back, they're saying, man, we could make a good deal, but these people are no longer alive. When I saw the way they were treated, when I saw they were thrown into the cars and how horribly they were treated, there's no way that those hostages, and some will be alive, but many of those hostages are dead. It's
Yeah,
a very,
who killed them?
It's a very
Who killed
serious,
those hostages?
horrible thing. It would have never happened if the election weren't rigged. It would have never happened if I were your president.
Wow.
They would have never done it. Because we have so many young people here today, I want to talk about, just for a moment, about success. Do you remember I used to give talks on success before politics? Okay, that's enough. We're going to do it. I know you're on our side, but it's enough. We're going to get them home. It's a rough situation. But remember, we used to give talks on success for the learning addicts and for others. And I used to do that before politics, and maybe it's one of the reasons I went in. But because, well, bringing our city back, it starts with getting the right leadership. It also involves men and women just like you. But I talk a lot about success, and I get paid money to talk about success. I would have done it for nothing. But then because of politics, and if you take a look, because of politics, I stopped doing that. But I think we're in the Bronx. We have young people, people that aspire to success. And I just wanted to know, I'm so tired of politics. Can we devote 6 minutes to success? Okay.
Oh boy.
So
he's on his right-wing podcast. There are
through tremendous.
Yeah,
I've had
really
great
is.
success. I've had
He's
it
gonna
in
start
he's
entertainment.
gonna start talking about how to get a girlfriend and stuff.
You know,
he's gonna
I ran
he's
for
gonna start
office.
selling his
What office
course,
did you run for president? How'd you do?
his
I won.
coaching course.
Yeah.
Actually, I won twice. You know, we did much better the second time.
He
so.
won twice.
You know, we got millions more votes the second time. But it doesn't compare to this time. There is so much more. We had tremendous enthusiasm when we, you know, I don't call her Crooked Hillary anymore. I call her Beautiful Hillary because I took crooked and used it for Joe. I don't like using it for two people. But we had tremendous enthusiasm in 2016. We had unbelievable more
Mental
enthusiasm in
active.
2020 because we did such a good job. In fact, one of the big problems in 2016 was the wall. It was the border. I fixed it so good that I couldn't talk about it in 2020. I kept saying to my people, I want to talk about the wall. I want to talk about the great job I did on immigration. I stopped people from coming in. They said, sir, nobody cares. You already fixed it. I said, this is a terrible thing.
No, that's not
You
the
fix
reason.
you
It
can't
was
talk
because
about
it was directly
Let's
attributed
talk
to
about
immigration
young
detention
people just
facilities
to
and
listen
family
for a couple
separation,
minutes.
which was a major point of contention, and Americans were very much against Donald Trump's policies and were infinitely more favorable to Joe Biden, who ran against that and even claimed in the first 100 days that he would reverse a lot of those decisions. He never did. And now Donald Trump is leading by massive margins, almost 20 points on the issue of immigration. You know, abject failure.
The harder you work,
exactly, you're not going to beat his own game in terms of these policies. Like it has to be, it has to be like just it's not just an alternative. It's like a completely different vision that we have to actually enact and demonstrate. Can't just like, say one thing, but it's really important that we actually like prove what the other ways of going about this can look like.
Yeah.
The harder I work, the luckier I get. That was an athlete saying that. Amazing, right? It's the first time I heard it. Probably been said by others, but it's true. I can tell you, if you didn't work really hard, there is very little chance that I would be standing here right now. Another part of success is something I learned from my father. I had a wonderful father, wonderful parents. I'm lucky. You got to be lucky. You got to get great parents.
Be born.
If you're going to spend your life working really hard, you have to love it. You have to pick something that you really enjoy. Sometimes your parents will say, don't do that. But you got to a little bit, in that case, you got to follow your own way. You got to love it. Ideally, you're going to love something where there's a potential, because there are some things you love, but it's not going to do you so good. So ideally, fall in love with something that's good. Some people go into a business where it's a very hard business. If you can go into a business that's an easier business and do well. But I see it all the time. Somebody has every ingredient for success. Smart, brilliant, everything's good. But they're in a business where you hit your head on the wall. It's a very tough business. Try finding something where it's a great business with a great future, and there are plenty of them out there. My father taught me about construction. But what I really learned from him was that he worked 7 days a week because he really loved to do it. I mean,
your father was massively wealthy, and so were you. This is like, I don't think this works with people. I think like talking about success in business is going to only remind them that like he was born with a silver spoon.
And that's one thing I'm not going to top him on. He was married.
He totally was born. I mean,
he was married for a long time,
multi-generational wealth. And it's like wild to me. Well, here's the thing that I love is that with people like this, they talk so much about working hard, and they're like, oh, you got to work really hard. Like I worked really hard for this. Ask someone like that what they did. Like, what did your days actually look like? What did you actually do? And it's like they took a phone call, like, oh wow, you had like a really long lunch with somebody. Like that to them is what work is, like schmoozing with other wealthy people.
Yeah, golfing, cutting checks. And that's why I love Elon Musk buying Twitter and like ruining it permanently, because he showed everyone that, billionaires with multiple jobs don't actually do anything, because he's tweeting all goddamn day. He tweets more than I do. And that's what Trump used to do when he was president, and even when he wasn't president. So
your uncle was always getting degrees. Wild. I had to keep building for your uncle to get him through college. He was always up there getting degrees. But he was at MIT for 41 years, a brilliant guy. He used to talk to me about nuclear because he was a nuclear genius, along with a genius about everything else.
The nuclear
genius. And he used
to
say that someday there'll be a time when a small package carried by hand can blow up an entire city. And I said, no way, Uncle John, that's never going to happen, Uncle John. Guess what? He was right a long time ago that he said it. But my father would price a house. And I'd say, how did you price in those days, Dad? He said, pricing was everything. He said, I'd sell a house for $3,999.99.
There ain't no way.
And that one penny made the difference between selling it and not. One penny.
Talking about
if
house
I made
prices.
it $4,000, I wouldn't sell. But psychologically, $3,999.99.
This dude, like,
and he sold houses.
I can't even understate how much of a slumlord model like that he represents, and is like, we talk about so much about rent going up. I mean, in New York City, it is actually insane, but across the country, it's actually insane.
Only 5%. According to Curb.com, only 5% of New Yorkers can actually, or I think like only 5% of availability of rental properties is in the average New Yorker salary range.
Yeah, it's a huge amount of transactions now. For places that are being bought in New York City, all cash transactions. Like, it is so unstable and it's so precarious, even just structurally for the city. Like, for all these people who are buying all cash properties, like, who is going to be able to even participate in the service economy that these people like to luxuriate in, when only 5% of the current housing market is even affordable to everyday people? I mean, this is like, it's actually crazy. And all these people doing like this Airbnb, like housing stock hoarding.
Wait, by the way, not to cut you off, but I think there's a medical emergency happening at the rally right now.
2 days. It's tough.
That's why he stopped.
Tough. Thank you.
He said, "Take your time, Doc," and he stepped away from the microphone.
Plenty of time.
And then said, "It's because they love me so much, because they've been waiting for 2 days to see me."
Wow.
Classic. But yes, you're right. They love the service economy. They love service workers. They love dominating service workers. Oh my God, is he gonna throw? Oh, I thought he was gonna throw like a hat at the at the dying Trump supporter.
Oh my God.
She all right? She okay?
That's a big L. Loving Trump so much, you have a medical emergency. Anyway.
Do they normally zoom out crowd shots in these things?
Right?
I'm surprised they haven't shown it.
Doing okay?
Sometimes it depends on the outlet. This is the outlet that we were watching originally. This is Trump's own personal camera, so they probably won't do that. But previously we were looking at Fox, but their coverage was really bad. Like it just kept cutting out.
Okay. You okay?
There's also 80,000 available housing units that are rent controlled that landlords are currently sitting on, waiting for a policy change to happen so they can actually unrestrict the rent caps that currently exist.
That's great.
So that's another big issue in New York City as well.
Great job.
Yeah, warehousing stabilized or rent controlled apartments. And right now there's a coalition, there's like a left coalition in the state assembly that they're trying to push for a lot more housing protections. It didn't quite go through in this session, but a lot of our DSA state level electeds were fighting for like good cause eviction and a lot of other tenant protections as well.
Some of the greatest days of my business career were in the toughest times, but I enjoyed waking up every single morning and go to battle. A lot of people say to me today, the toughest business people that you know about, could I ask you a question? How do you do it? I say, do what? How do you get up in the morning and put your pants on? Where do you put the pants on? I'll explain it to you someday. How do you do it? How do you get up? How do you do it? How can you want to do with what you do? They're after you. They're after you. These horrible human beings are after you all the time. Impeachment hoax number 1, impeachment hoax number 2, lawsuits all up. And they're doing it to injure the political opponent of an incompetent candidate because he can't run fairly and squarely.
I'll be back
and
in a
I
second.
say, you know what I do? I just do it. I put on the blinders. I say, I just do it. We do it. And the other question they ask me is, will it happen again? And we have to make it too big to rig. We got a lot of great people watching. We have to make it too big to rig. But one of the things you need in success is momentum. You need momentum. You got to have, and when you have that momentum going, there's nothing that can stop you. And I tell the story of Bill Levitt. Bill Levitt was a great real estate man, great. Levitt towns all over the country. One of the most successful real estate people at a certain age ever. And he built these massive towns that were, you know, there was nothing like them at the time. And very successful. And he was offered a lot of money to sell to a big public company. And he decided to take it. He was a young man. He was in his 40s. And he said, darling, I'm going to take it. Told his wife, I want to take the money. And for 20 years, he went out. He bought a yacht. He lived a beautiful life. He lived in the south of France. But he got bored. And 21, 22 years later, he said, I want to make a comeback. I can't stand this life anymore. I want to make a comeback. And he went to the company that he sold to, a big public company that did very poorly. They had no idea what they were doing. You know, he used to, by the way, He used to pick up every nail, every piece of wood, he used to sell the sawdust, everything. He would say every penny was a major event. And now you had this big public company. They didn't know what the hell they were doing. So he went back and he made him an offer. They didn't want to sell, and he paid a little more. And he ended up buying it for an okay price. And he was so happy. He said, now I can go back to work. And he went back, and everything he touched turned bad. The market turned on him. The jobs turned on him. He was no longer able to get zoning. He was spending a fortune. He had just purchased it for a lot of money. And he ended up going bankrupt. He was bankrupt. And I was young when I met him. And I was at the party of a very big person, big public company person. And Bill Levitt was there. And I was in the real estate business, so I knew who he was. And you probably indirectly know who. And everybody was shunning him a little bit. Nobody cared about him anymore. But I did, and I went over to him, and I say, hi, Mr. Levitt, I'm Donald Trump. I know it. I was doing great. I was sort of like a hot guy. I was hot as a piss.
Oh, God.
I think I was hotter than I am now, and I became president, okay? I don't know.
Oh, my God.
I said to somebody, was I hotter before or hotter now? I don't know. Who the hell knows? Who the hell knows?
Don't
who the
know,
hell
like,
cares, right?
Who sits this and
But
watches
he knew
this
who
and
I
is
was,
like,
and I
I'm
went
inspired.
up and I said, so...
Like, this
Are you okay? And he
this
said,
does it for me.
I'm not really okay. I made a mistake that I'll never forget. And he was, by this time, a pretty old guy. And he was sitting in the corner of this magnificent Fifth Avenue apartment where there were 25 verses.
Bill Levitt was, according to Times of Israel, famous for king of the suburbs, keeping black people out of suburbia. The guy he's talking about.
If he was I mean, speaking of Trump's long record here, Westchester County, which is just north of the Bronx here, Trump had like this big ruling against him for discrimination, and anti-black and racial discrimination in Westchester County. And I wonder if this guy was involved in that.
And I've never forgotten that story. And it was a sad story. He was a good man, too. I thought he was a good man, but did an unbelievable job. Today, you have Levittowns all over the country, and pretty amazing. But you have to always keep moving forward. And when it's your time, you have to know it's your time. And I said to myself, in terms of politics, I said, you know what? We did so well in number one. We did even better in number two. I said, we got to do it again because you have to do it. Maybe I'm wrong. And I'm not doing it for myself. I'm doing it to make America great.
Apparently, William Levitt also even allowed a policy in Strathmore on Long Island to keep Jewish people out of the suburbs as well.
Wow.
He was the segregation king.
Because I'd go and I'd have 50,000 people at a rally. She'd go and have 200 people. And then they say, why did I win Michigan? Why did I win Pennsylvania? Why did I win all these states that a Republican hadn't won in many years? Why? And by the way, we're up in Pennsylvania. We're up in Michigan. We're up in New Hampshire today. We're up in Florida at numbers that you wouldn't even believe. But I also think it's very important to know what you want. You have to set your sights high. Set your sights so high, higher than you ever thought possible, and make your goals big and go after it. That's why I say we won't just make New York a little better. I say we want to make New York a lot better, better than it ever was before, right? And finally, you have to take pride in your accomplishments. Do not take for granted what you've achieved. Forget it. It's over. It's good for your confidence, but it's over. Go forward. Think to the future, not to the past, but learn from the past.
It's like his commencement.
Yeah. He's,
wherever
for
I go,
Trump
I know that if I
University.
could-
this is very different. This is very different than his other speeches. I've never seen him talk about success this much, and I think it's probably because like he wanted to recalculate, like retriangulate his speech to the audience that he's listening to, that he's speaking
Yeah.
to. So I don't think he can be like as racist, I guess he assumes, because
Yeah,
he's in the
I
Bronx.
think that's what it is. He had to like cut the whole like racism bit, and so he's gonna try to do this like
normally he would be spending this entire block talking about migrants and how they're like rapists and murderers and stuff like that.
I find it interesting though, because they did want to like seize on and try to exploit the asylum issue and like all of the busing from DeSantis to New York City. They wanted to use that. They wanted to like kind of seize on the public safety stuff. And he's not really doing that here. He's like decided to do this like, I don't even know, like pseudo inspirational type of thing. And I wonder what led them to make that recalculation.
I think because he understands that ultimately the broader New York community cares more about inflation, and this hits Biden harder. He can tell poor people, he'll tie it back to how, he's like tying it back to how he was making America great and the economy was good. Considering that that's the number one most salient issue for Biden voters as well as Republican voters, instead of talking about like migrant panic, which works really well in like southern
called the migrant crime. We have a migrant crime happening now. You add that to the crime.
Never mind, he's getting into it now.
A terrible statistic. Venezuela was a very crime-ridden country. They just announced a month ago 67, but now they just announced 72% reduction in crime in Venezuela. In Caracas, they took their gang members, they took their drug dealers, they are emptying out their prisons, they're taking everybody that's a problem and they're dumping them into the United States of America. We're like a dumping ground. But many countries are doing that. I would say eventually all countries would be doing that. If I headed up Honduras, if I headed up any one of the countries that are neighboring or not neighboring, and we're not talking about just South America countries, we're talking about countries from Africa. The other day, 22, think of it, 22 people from the Congo. Where do you live? We came from jail. What did you do in jail? We don't want to tell you. They're now living happily. They come from Africa. They come from Asia. They come from all over the world. They come from the Middle East. Yemen. We're bombing Yemen. Here we go with the bombs again. We're bombing Yemen. And people are coming in from Yemen. Large numbers of people are coming in from China. And if you look at these people, did you see them? They are physically fit. They're 19 to 25. Almost everyone is a male. And they look like fighting age. I think they're building an army. They had 29,000 people over the last... I think they're building... They want to get us from within. I think they're building an army. This is not, you know, it's interesting. Did you see them? They all have tents. They all have gas-fired stoves. I mean, this is not like an illegal immigrant. This is, they're building something. They have something in mind.
Wow.
We're going to end all of that stuff. They respected your president. They respected our country. And we're not going to let people, we are not going to let these people come in and take our city away from us and take our country away from us. It's not going to happen.
I like the crowd looks.
No, who would let people, seriously?
Not from the city at all. They're like, yeah, we're going to take our city back.
Institutions. They cannot stay. We will immediately begin the largest criminal deportation operation in our country's history because this situation is sustainable
like that dude,
by no country. No country.
The hands that you can see are all black and brown hands that are going, yeah, hell yeah. Like the ones that you can see. It's like the rest of the country would view them just like they have very famously on numerous occasions told you, Alexandria, that you know, you don't belong here, that you're not a legacy American. It is not done on the virtue of your immigration status. You've been in this, your family's been in this country for longer than, you know, Donald Trump's family has.
Yeah.
But seems like he is seen as more of a legacy American than you for some weird reason. A lot of those people don't recognize that, I think.
17 million people.
No,
and these are not necessarily people
super seriously. Because, I mean, not even like separate just from an immigration question. This is kind of the groundwork of fascism, right? Where you start to not only identify targets and social classes that you seek to subjugate, but also this idea of building up a kind of an internal army, right, in order to justify his continued use of and building up of CBP and kind of the wielding Homeland Security forces, which notoriously don't have a good jurisdiction. And we've seen this. We saw this around Black Lives Matter protests, even before that with the Dakota XL pipeline and everything that's going on. It is the use of Homeland Security, which the resources get pumped into because of this anti-immigrant rhetoric, and then they turn around with these new resources due to that political toxicity, and they wield it on journalists, they wield it on surveillance of activists, they wield it on all sorts of cities and different places where people are organizing around grassroots mass popular movements. I mean, this is like just the playbook here. This is the playbook here.
BORTAC, the Special Weapons and Tactics unit for ICE, for CBP, that gets training literally like overseas, was very much functional during the Portland wing of the Black Lives Matter protest. They were, black bagging and tagging people in unmarked vans. And,
they had drones over these protests. I mean, this is the part that's like actually quite scary, quite scary.
Madison High School were recently told they had to stay at home from school so their classrooms could be turned into housing for thousands of
oh my God,
right?
Which by
thousands of migrants.
It was like one evening.
Yeah,
the kids weren't even in school, and the next day the kids were like, it was totally fine.
Yeah, it was necessary because there was what was it? I think it was like a tornado warning or something, right?
And I think it was flooding or something like that might have happened.
It was due to weather conditions that they wanted to offer like structured shelter to the migrants for literally one evening, and they're still using that as a talking point. And of course, many of these people don't care, they don't know, and they see it on Fox News, and then it's reiterated, and it becomes a matter of fact, even though it's not correct.
It didn't have anything to do with stakes or people or illegal immigration, but this has to do with illegal immigration, and I think it's very accurate, actually.
Oh, is he doing the snake story?
But I'll go and we'll do it.
See, this is a classic.
Some of you have heard it.
Okay, I don't know this one.
But we're going to do it right now for the great people of the Bronx.
You knew what I was when you brought me in. It's a poem. It's a fascist poem that he loves reading.
This is that scorpion thing?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
On her work, and you know what? You know what this is all about, right? Did you know? You've heard this before? Have you heard it?
See, this is type 5. He's like, you guys want this.
On her way to work one morning, down the path along the lake, a tender-hearted woman saw a poor half-frozen snake. His pretty-colored skin had been all frosted with the dew. Poor thing, he said. I'll take you in, and I'll take care of you.
Fascist poetry, man.
Take me in, oh tender woman.
Never thought
Take
I'd see
me in,
it.
for heaven's sake. Take me in, oh tender woman, sighed the vicious snake. She wrapped him up all cozy in a comforter of silk and laid him by the fireside with some honey and some milk. She hurried home from work that night, and soon as she arrived, she found the pretty snake she'd taken in had been revived. Take me in, oh tender woman, take me in for heaven's sake. Take me in, oh tender woman, sighed the vicious snake. She clutched him to her bosom. You're so beautiful, she cried.
A chain email
that
that old people used to forward to each other all the time, like back in the early 2000s.
Again and kissed and held him tight. But instead of saying thank you, ma'am, the snake gave her a vicious bite. Take me in, oh tender woman, take me in for heaven's sake. Take me in, oh tender woman, sighed the vicious snake. I saved you, cried the woman, and you've bitten me, but why? You know your bite is poisonous, and now I'm going to die. Shut up, silly woman, said the reptile with a grin. You knew damn well I was a snake before you took me in. Right? So when we allow people from prisons when we allow people from insane asylums and mental institutions, which are being emptied out all over the world. You know, their prison populations are going way down. You know why? Because they're being dumped into the United States. When we are allowing terrorists at numbers that we've never seen before, remember the snake. Remember the snake. Because you're going to get bitten like you never got bitten before, and you need a new president, and you have to get rid of this person who is not a smart person, not a respected person, and doesn't have a clue what the hell is happening. So that's the snake. Did you enjoy the snake?
Did you enjoy
On day
it,
one,
Snake?
I will seal the border, and I will stop the invasion of our country. Very sadly, in recent years, we have also seen our city destroyed by bad, radical left, pro-crime policy that virtually everyone, Republican, Democrat, Independent, everyone, you all know it's a disaster. You know the names of these lunatics.
This was the OG failure, in my opinion. Like, even in the midterms, when Democrats also capitulated to the crime panic, which was completely fabricated by local media, and also the very same police departments then turned around and were like, actually, we didn't get defunded, and also actually crime is down.
My
Because
favorite
it
is Walgreens.
Yeah, it is. And yes, Walgreens CFO very famously publicly apologized for saying, okay, maybe we exaggerated a little bit the way that crime was the way that crime was causing us to shut down our brick and mortar retail stores. Ridiculous stuff, and that should have been the first indication that capitulation to right-wing framing is obviously going to be devastating policy, which in my opinion caused the likes of Lee Zeldin and even George Santos, who I apparently is at this rally right now.
Oh yeah, I saw something about that.
To flip a district and also to gain more legitimacy, more prominence in New York politics. There's no way. Did we miss the AOC mention?
You know,
oh no.
Did I get
Viktor
a shout?
Orban, did you ever hear of him? Prime Minister
Here,
of
I'll run it
Hungary.
back.
Do things, and he's not going to vote for him. You just know. We got to win. If we just win the state, it just puts it right. It's such a big state.
Oh, you guys lied? There was no AOC mention. Never mind.
You're going to have a president and people, but you're going to have a president that understands what we have to do. We have to be nice about it, but we have to do things. And we're going to be done. And the world is going to figure Trump out. Trump was a rather difficult person, but he used the word afraid. I don't use it. I don't use afraid. I use the word respect. They respected your president. They respected the United States of America. And they're going to do it again, and it's going to happen fast. But we have to get this absolute disaster. The worst president in history. He makes Jimmy Carter look like he had a brilliant administration. The only thing, the only happy person about Joe Biden is Jimmy Carter, because Jimmy looks brilliant by comparison. I also want to thank New York's finest.
His boomer resentment towards Jimmy Carter is also hilarious.
I love our firemen.
It is.
I love our teachers. These are incredible people.
And like,
we have
meanwhile,
to
Jimmy
bring
Carter is
our
like
respect
probably
and
one of the most
honor
beloved
back to
former
them,
presidents
right where it belongs.
that
A few weeks
is
ago,
around
I
now.
visited with a grieving family, New York police officer Jonathan Diller. What a beautiful family. He was a beautiful person. He was 31 years old, gunned down during a traffic stop by a vicious thug, and just horrible, leaving his beautiful young wife behind, a son, Ryan, behind, 1-year-old son. And it was the saddest day. It was a horrible thing. Opened the door and just started shooting him. The criminal charge was savagely murdering Officer Dillon, was previously arrested by the NYPD 21 times. And he was allowed to go out because of the political things they do here. I'm the only one they want to keep. If I ever said, I want no bail, they'd say, you got to pay a fortune. If I ever say, oh, no cash bail, that sounds good, that sounds good. No, it doesn't apply to Trump. I'm the only one it doesn't apply to, probably. And the accomplice driving the car had been arrested 14 times and was actually a far more violent person. And his nickname was Killer. They called him Killer. These dangerous and violent repeat offenders should never have been on our streets. Jonathan should be alive today, but they were released again and again and again. I will not sit by and accept this reckless insanity when I am in the White House. I will stand up to the Marxist DAs and Soros prosecutors, and we will tell them no more. We're not going to stand for it. We will not let them destroy our communities. We will not let them destroy our country. There's a 53% increase in felony assaults on your subways. 53%. That's in a short period of time. Since 2019, murders are up more than 20%. Shootings are up more than 30%. I'm going to indemnify all police officers and law enforcement officials throughout the United States to protect them from being destroyed by the radical left for taking strong actions on crime. And remember, Black, Hispanic, Asian people need this protection and safety more than anyone else. Don't ever forget it. And after years of talk by the radical left Democrats, we are going to give them the protection they need, and we're going to protect our police. We're going to make sure they do a great job. They can do it very quickly. They know who the bad guys are. They know everything about them. They know their name. They know their middle initial. We're going to insist that if a violent criminal murders a police officer, they receive the death penalty. It's going to be quick. Wow. And I also want to work with your mayor and your governor, happen to be Democrats, to clean up the homeless encampments so that you can once again enjoy your parks and your public spaces. Right now, you don't have public spaces. They're occupied by migrants in tents. Pleasures as simple as a walk in the park or watching your children again play in a little league game.
It's just
will
like
come roaring back,
it
and
almost. I mean, he attributes all the homelessness to the migrant crisis, when in fact it's obviously born out of material conditions and the fact that
housing costs. There's a direct relation between rising rents and the size of the homeless population.
Years ago, people with severe mental illness were in mental institutions, and then a certain governor, I won't mention the name because at this point, what difference? They dumped all of them into the streets because they said those institutions were too expensive to run. So now they live on our streets.
That was Ronald Reagan.
This is no good for anybody. It's bad for the people who need help, and it's bad for the people of our city, and it's a horrible, horrible way to live. I want to work in partnership with your local leaders, Democrats, pretty much all, and move the severely mentally ill off your streets and back into a place where they can get help and the help that they desperately need.
Put them.
Yeah, which by the way,
they put them all in Rikers, and when they talk about people being in and out, it's because they take people with severe mental illnesses who have no recourse, that have zero support systems in society, then are invariably and very often left to the streets, and then they're just called they just call the police on them because there's no health care, there's no social safety net, and they just go in and out of Rikers every time. And then as the weather gets cold, a lot of them intentionally go to Rikers because they have no other place to go and need a warm meal. I mean, this is a cycle that we see over and over and over again because we've systematically defunded any sort of public healthcare system. And in New York City specifically, we had a really robust network of public hospitals. We still do have public hospitals. Oh, and here's Ruben Diaz, who is a notorious homophobe, misogynist, local elected official, father of the former borough president, but they actually have very different set of politics in terms of how they enacted their policies.
I used to be city council member. Today
he was my city councilman.
For various reasons. But I want to tell you first that as a Puerto Rican, as a Hispanic, I want to apologize to you for the conduct of Judge Juan Merchant. As a Hispanic, I want to apologize.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. Also,
this is literally the Vivek Ramaswamy and Coulter situation. Like,
he has been used to destroy you. But
I
we
will
know better than
understand this dude's cat either.
Like,
you are in Parkchester in the Bronx.
As a minister,
where'd you get this from?
President of the New York Hispanic Clergy Organization. I want to tell AOC.
Oh, here we go. What's up? What's up?
He loves it.
He does love it.
This morning, she intended to become a prophet.
Oh, it's because it was raining this morning. And I said, God is good.
Even God doesn't want
He's
talk in
a
the Bronx
pastor.
He's a
because
pastor.
he's going
He's
to
a pastor,
pray.
and he has
my
all these he has this network of churches.
Madam
that
Prophet
he has
AOC,
that he has. Here, I'll let him say what
Listen-
he
you
says.
have
let him
become
cook.
a false prophet.
False prophet.
Look at what a beautiful day. That means that not only you guys want Trump in the Bronx, because if we're gonna measure that for the weather, then I would say humbly that even God wants you in the Bronx.
This guy's awesome.
Yeah. You know, there's a really funny story
I
brought
want-
Ted Cruz to the Bronx in 2016. And he brought him to a school.
I want to close
And the kids
by
all
saying,
walked out.
I want to close by saying, Mr. President, I want to join you in having the Bronx great again. Please
Wow.
accept this Democrat, this black Puerto Rican with a kinky hair and a broken English. Please accept my endorsement for you as a president. Thank you very much.
Wow.
He's surely gonna hit 17% this time now.
Yeah.
Beautiful job. Thank
The Bronx is fallen.
Wild.
Thank you very much. How nice was that? I didn't expect that. Really? That was beautiful. You know, it's always dangerous to do that. You never know what's going to come out. Maybe he'll change his mind coming up, but he doesn't change his mind. That man is a winner. He's a winner and a great man. Thank you very much, Ruben.
What does that even mean? What's gonna come out
Also
about
with
him?
us is
What the hell?
I don't,
New York
well,
native
he's
and current
problematic.
U.S. Congressman. He's hot as a pistol. Oh, boy, he has a future. And he's a great friend of mine, Byron Donalds. Come up, please, Byron.
He's got Byron
Oh,
Donald.
yeah, Byron opened for him, which I don't know why. Like, I mean, I do know why. It's because he's black.
Yeah.
But that's it. That's like because he's Florida. Like, what the hell is he doing over there in the Bronx?
Yeah, what is he doing here?
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Mr.
I
President,
work with Byron on the oversight
there's
committee.
more of them here now than when I was up about an hour and a half ago. If there's one thing we know, is that this man was one of the best presidents this country has ever had.
Oh my god.
Oh my God! Look at that crowd.
And if there's
Now they're
another
zooming
thing-
out.
Dude, yes, I love
Is
the
that all
zoom
of you
out
are gonna
shot
make him
here.
the 47th
Yes,
president
this
of the
looks like
United
a
States?
crowd of Bronxites to me. Wow. I like.
Thank you,
I like
Byron.
This guy
Great. What a
holding
good
sign that says
future.
Dub Bronx.
Here
And I'm
as
like,
well as
"Where are you
rapper
from?"
Chef G. Does everybody know Chef? Where is Chef G?
28%
Where
black,
is he?
56% Hispanic.
Come on up, fellas.
Is the
Rapper
Bronx
Sleepy
demographics,
Hollow.
by the
Like
way.
70. Yeah, it's like 70 to 80% people of color.
Come on
Yeah.
up here, fellas. How are you, man? Hey. Oh, I like that. I want to get that done.
Who's this?
I don't know.
One thing I want to say. One thing I want to say.
Chef
They
G.
always gonna whisper your accomplishments
Sleepy
and shout
Hollow.
your failures. Trump
He's
gonna
from
shout
Sleepy
the
Hollow.
wins for all of us.
That's Westchester as well. That's Westchester County as well.
Make America great again.
Thank you, fellas.
Wow.
No, his name is Sleepy Hollow. His name is Sleepy Hollow. I don't know.
Thank you very much. That's where I like those teeth. I want to find out where you did. I got to get my teeth like that.
Oh my God.
I want that to
my
happen to me.
God. Would do it.
For somebody with a fantastic future in the Republican Party and beyond, Gavin Wax. Thank you, young Republicans. Gavin, wherever you are. Thank you, Gavin. Adam Solis of New York Young Republicans, who's been fantastic. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Good job you're doing. Madeline Brame of Blexit. Thank you, Madeline. Thank you very much. Somebody that's a real star in politics and done an incredible job and so popular.
I think I got to bounce soon.
The county executive, Nassau County, Bruce.
Thank you. So
Blakeman.
thank you so much
Come
for
up,
having
Bruce,
me on.
for a second.
Appreciate
Come
it.
up, Bruce.
Thank you for coming on. We're also fundraising right now. Creators for Palestine, like a bunch of
Amazing.
Yeah, like 50 plus YouTubers have gotten together to raise money for numerous charities that are currently working on the ground. And we've raised $63,000 so far.
That's incredible.
With a goal of $1 million, which you guys can also donate to as well. And
totally.
Thank you so much for coming on. And you're very tapped into what's going on online. So I'm glad we were able to do this, and hopefully we'll be able to do it again soon, maybe under better circumstances and not just like listening to Trump ramble.
Yeah, 100%. Maybe we'll set up another gaming stream soon. But thank you so much for having me on, Hasan. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, and we're happy to be supportive and amplify any fundraising as well. Shout out to you guys for launching Creators for Palestine, and thanks to everyone who's also been chipping in to help out with that, because as we know, there's just horrible, atrocious, unfolding genocide that we've got going on right now, and we have to do everything we can from a grassroots level to a policy level to change it up. So thank you all so much. Really appreciate it.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
All right, back to Donald Trump.
I didn't know. I woke up, I said, I wonder, will it be hostile or will it be friendly? It was beyond friendly. It was a love fest. From the very first day that we take back the White House, I believe we are going to have the 4 greatest years in the history of our country. We're going to restore peace through strength. We're going to keep radical Islamic terrorists out of our country. We're going to protect our great seniors, and I will never let anyone touch your Medicare or your Social Security. Under the Democrat program, they will be gone. We are going to restore free speech in America. We are going to fight
thank you for the 10
for
gifted
your
subs.
right to school choice, something you all want. And I will not allow schools to impose COVID vaccine mandates or mask mandates.
What? What are we talking? It's 2024, man. It's like bringing up the top of the hour ad break. It's 2024, brother. What the hell are we doing here? He resorted back to the old speech.
Secure our elections. But all of this, saving New York and saving America, starts
What does
with
he know that we
telling
don't know?
crooked Joe Biden,
He knows that at the
worst
top of the hour,
president in
the real
history,
vaccine
you're
is subscribing
fired like the apprentice. You're fired.
for $5
Get
or
out.
for free with a Twitch
You
Prime.
Are terrible. You're destroying our country, Joe. Get out. If you want to help, you must vote. I believe that we can win New York State. We have levels of support that nobody's seen before. I mean, look at this. So register, volunteer, turn out everyone you know. Don't assume it doesn't matter just because you live in a blue city. You live in a blue city, but it's going red very, very quickly. We must work together as a team to win. New York has always been the home of proud patriots like you. You are proud patriots. You love this. You love this city, you love this state, and you love our country. New York was the city loved by Teddy Roosevelt, Norman Rockwell, the great Flo Ziegfeld, General
Jessica
Douglas
Phoenix, thank you for the 5
MacArthur,
gifted.
George Gershwin, Frank Sinatra, and in baseball alone, Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, Joe DiMaggio, Jackie Robinson, and many, many others. It's a city where workers and skilled craftsmen strode across steel beams 80 stories high to build the great Empire State Building and the Chrysler Building and all of the others. It's the city that lit up the shining lights of Broadway, that turned Times Square from a seedy, dirty, long-forgotten area into one of the greatest crossroads of light and glamour anywhere in the world. It's the city that produced generations of everyday American heroes who willingly spilled their blood and gave everything they had to make America into the greatest nation in the history of the world. Above all, this is the place that every one of us here today has been proud to call our home, our town, our city. And we are the ones who are going to make our city great again. It was hardworking patriots like you who built this city, and it is hardworking patriots, and this is something you can say it, and you can say it 1,000,000 times, and you can emblazon it. It's hardworking patriots like you who are going to save our country. You are going to save our country. We're going to get out and vote like never before. We're going to make it too big to rig.
He didn't mention abortion once, understandably.
Too big to rig. So one thing they can't guard against, working together, there is nothing we cannot do and no height we cannot achieve. Together we will make America powerful again. We will make America wealthy again.
Bars.
We will make America strong again. We will make America proud again. We will make America safe again. We will make America great again. Thank you, Bronx. Thank you, New York. We love you. Thank you. God bless everybody. God bless you.
He didn't mention these guys are already afraid of the Bronx. There's going to be too it's a black and brown neighborhood. HasanAbi hit is at the rally. I already ran the top of the hour ad break. He brought up drill rapper from Brooklyn, Chef G. Eric Adams hates him. Yeah, I mean, it was kind of mid. It wasn't that good overall. It wasn't that good overall. It was like I said, it was kind of mid.
As President Trump makes a campaign stop in the Bronx, something that hasn't happened since Ronald Reagan in 1980. And
look at all these Bronx people,
now,
bro.
The fact that there are a lot of people still, trying to get into this place. 3 words for you. Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, but Madison Square Garden, the night that the American-German Bund movement marched to Madison Square Garden, that's what they're talking about.
What we just saw here in the Bronx is going to be anything of a sample of what it will be like at Madison Square Garden, right in the heart of Midtown Manhattan. Can you believe it? Wow. We want to thank our friends at the Birch Gold Group. It's always good to have a backup plan for that dollar. Gold, silver, precious metals.
That's so funny. He's shilling fucking gold. Where are the buses to get those people back to Alabama or wherever they came from? First of all, they came from Staten Island. Secondly, there are no buses because the Trump campaign does not have money. So he's shilling ivermectin.
These are the kind of things that work for different kinds of viruses.
They're still selling ivermectin? That's crazy.
I also want to talk about the freetrumpbook.com.
Anyway, yeah, I saw the AOC tweet. I already retweeted it, chatters. Will Trump be out front with a bucket taking donations? I don't know. We'll see. Will he be dual casting the elections on YouTube? Would also be good, potentially. They come from Long Island and Staten Island. Yeah. Oh, man. What a day. What a day. Overall, I think, I mean, look, if election were tomorrow, do you think Trump wins? It looks like it. Polling data shows that he does win.